Hi everyone. Just wanted to start our critiques today with Aaron's work and just a bit of background and a reminder of what we're trying to do here. First of all, we're looking at light. We're looking at both the direction of the light, so coming from behind the camera or coming from the side or coming from behind the subject. And then we're looking at whether it's hard light or soft light. And then finally, we want to look at our depth of field here, which we'd be looking at a small depth of field, which is the subject in focus and the foreground and background out of focus. And then the large depth of field, which is everything in focus. So here we have Aaron's snowman. Aaron tells us that he thought it'd be a great idea to bring his snowman inside and kind of talk about how the snowman's sad that he is going to melt now. So I think this is, from a perspective of lighting, a really successful image. We've got this great side lighting here, which creates these wonderful shadows, which reveal the texture in the snowman. And this can be something that's really difficult to do with a pure white object like the snowballs in the snowman. So very successful on that end of things. I also really love the yellowish light in here. It kind of goes a little bit further to speaking to the hot air that might be inside that is causing our snowman to melt and be sad. So I like it a lot from that perspective. Maybe just would like to clean up the couch in the background a little bit. Just kind of feels a little bit too centered to me. And perhaps maybe some droplets of water on the countertop here might also just add a little bit more to this photograph. But all in all, I think really successful image here, first one out of the gate. Aaron's second image, image of the cemetery, he has told us that he's used soft lighting here to support his idea of it being a very depressing place or very somber place. And I agree that soft lighting does give it a very gray, very maudlin kind of feeling to it. So I think you got the lighting right on this image. What I don't like about this image is it kind of just feels very scattered and not very refined. You know, the horizon kind of feels like it's tilting one way. We've got some of these gravestones that are sort of pushing off the end of the frame there. And for like a true large depth of field, our stuff in the background here is starting to go a little bit soft. So I guess I should caution everybody that when you're taking pictures over at the cemetery, you really need to find images that are beyond common. You know, I think if anybody drove through the cemetery and just was starting to look around from the windows of their car, they'd probably see something like this. So I think you'd need to work a little bit harder in the cemetery to come up with something that's original and pretty unique. Maybe focusing in on some interesting texture in some of the headstones or something like that. So that being said, you know, you got to also think about refining your frame so it doesn't look just so much like it has a snapshot aesthetic to it. You know, we want it to look very well composed and well framed. So I think you got the lighting right. I think you're almost there on the depth of field, but from the creative end of things, I think you could kind of push the envelope a little bit more. Next up, we've got Angelica Nicole's images, and her first image is a large depth of field image, and I really think this is a beautiful image. Our eye kind of works through the frame from the bottom with all these wonderful trees and these kind of very tiny fingerling outlets or outlines of their texture. I think that really works well. And then going off to this negative space in the distance that's all in focus here. Love the color in here that's going on, sort of this soft pastel-y color that I think is very unique to the lake at this time of year. The one thing we want to watch out for here is our horizon is tilting down towards the left, and we generally speaking want to have our horizon level in our images. So if we were using a crop tool in Photoshop, we would crop it and kind of level this horizon, maybe something like this, so it looked a little bit more level. So just to give you an example, not perfect there, but just to give you a good idea of what I'm looking for out of this. But all in all, a great shot, and the soft lighting here I think also works really well. Angelica's next image is an image of the Statue of Liberty. She talks about in her written statement how she wants to make this kind of look like it's not the Empire State Building, and that we want it to have a little bit of vagueness to it. And I think that's a great idea, and from an intellectual standpoint, I think that is a really, really well thought out concept. So I really like where you're going with the idea. The execution of it, I don't think you quite got the focus. If we look in really closely on these two statues, they're pretty out of focus. And if we look through the whole image, there's really nothing in here that is in sharp focus. So when we're working with the small depth of field, we want to have something in focus. We can't have everything out of focus. And really the reason that I think the statues are out of focus is I believe, Angelica, you were probably shooting through some glass, and that glass might not have been clean, or there might have been several planes of glass that kind of reduce the sharpness of your camera. So it's kind of tough when you have to shoot through glass because you're subject to all the defects in that glass. So I kind of got where you're going here, and I think you're 3/4 of the way there. I think that the issue with the glass kind of got in your way. And again, just a reminder, and everybody, this is something that happens to us a lot when we're taking pictures, get so focused in on the subject that we forget about that horizon line. So make sure all your horizons are pretty leveled. And again, we can do that with the crop tool in Photoshop if your capture itself isn't entirely level. And then we move over to Jordan's images. Jordan has got a really wonderful textural, formal image that she points out she was reminded of Weston's Pepper, and I totally agree that that beautiful texture in the paper is very much emphasized by this light that is coming from the side here. Jordan also submitted this as a large depth of field photograph, and I think she's pretty much there. You know, everything's looks to be in focus. Although the one thing I might take issue with here is if we look at her capture data, we can see in the image that the f-stop in here was an f-stop of 4.5, and that typically wouldn't be ideal for a large depth of field type of photograph. It'd be great if she had an f-stop of maybe 11 or 16 or ideally 22, but in this image here, I think that is pretty sharply focused from foreground to background, so I can't really complain too much about that. Nice image, really like this a lot. And then we go over to the small depth of field image, which it's kind of challenging here because it was pointed out that the intent really wasn't to get these balls in focus. But what's happening here is because we've got these lines that are taking our eye to the balls, it kind of creates a little bit of tension and confusion for the viewer. They want them to be in focus and they're out of focus. So then we start looking for something else that's in focus in the picture, and perhaps maybe this is in focus right there. But even if we zoom into there, that really kind of looks like even that is out of focus. So you really got to watch out where you're focusing on in your images, especially with these small depth of field images, because only a very limited area is going to be in focus. And if you don't nail it perfectly, it can really throw off the whole photograph. So that would be my my one piece of constructive criticism. But again, really love the arrangement of the frame, the simplicity of everything here, and especially all these lines that push the viewer into the image and engage their vision in this area of the photograph. So from that perspective, nicely done. And also from the perspective of our side lighting here. I think that side lighting also worked great. And then we'll finish up in this last set of critique with Catherine's work. Here we have Catherine's large depth of field image, which I think is a wonderful shot. A couple things she pointed out in her statement. One of them was that she overexposed the image by 2 stops, which is great. I think it really makes the color and these trees kind of pop here. And I also just love the arrangement of this frame where these long diagonal lines draw the viewer into the photograph. So our eye just sort of follows this road right into there. So I think extremely good job with this. Also love the fact that she identified this as soft lighting. Absolutely, with all that snow reflecting the light everywhere. We don't see any hard shadows there. I think that light is perfectly identified. So nice shot overall, and I think very successful using the techniques that were introduced in this module. And then over to her small depth of field shot. Again, perfectly focused in on the little fox here, and background is out of focus. And I kind of like the fact that the fox is pointed towards this empty chair. So it almost becomes a little dialogue between the chair and the fox here. And it kind of asks the viewer to look a little bit more deeply at the image and explore what's going on. So from my intellectual point of view, I really like what she's doing there. Identified the light, again, as being soft light, and that is indeed correct. And as far as the small depth of field, right on the money here too. So 2 very well done shots. Good job here, Catherine. The one thing that I just might ask down the road here is you kind of resize this a little bit on the small side, and our image, when we start to blow it up, is getting pixelated a little bit. Make sure you go 7 inches in the longest direction at 300 dpi. If we look at our image size here, you can see that this image is 6x4 at 72 dpi, so it's kind of low resolution. And I do know that I did not specifically ask for any dimensions in this assignment, but down the road, please make sure that you do save it as a little bit bigger size. Well done.